Hello, and welcome to Emerge on the Real, a live discussion that highlights the impact of our program through the perspective of our students, community partners, and staff members. My name is Neil Kang, and I am the Development Coordinator at Emerge. And today we would like to introduce a special guest, Emerge board member and mentor, Abdullah Khan. Today, Abdullah will share about his volunteer experience with Emerge, his mentor experience with some of Houston's brightest students, and what he's learned with some of and gained from his volunteer experience. We will conclude today's discussion with a Q&A session where Abdullah will answer a few questions from the audience. So please feel free to submit your questions anytime in the chat below during today's discussion. Abdullah, thank you for joining us today.
Neil, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So we'd like to kick things off by giving our audience a glimpse of who you are. So can you explain to our audience, who is Abdullah?
Well, that's a pretty complicated question, but why don't we start with who I am and where I came from. Like many of the Emerge students, I am a first-generation American. My parents migrated to the US from Pakistan in 1980. Neil, I see you doing the math, don't do that. So once we were here, we actually landed in Houston, and that's where I did most of my education. I'm a product of A-Leaf. I was in the district. I went from elementary all the way to high school. And after that, I did my undergraduate and graduate studies here in Houston as well. And so my story is not too dissimilar from those of other Emerge students, being the first in many ways, first generation in terms of being an American, and then also one of the first to go to college here in the US as well.
Awesome. So it wouldn't feel right if I didn't start off with this question, but how did you find out about Emerge?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. So majority of my professional career was working for one of the big four firms, and I had a client at the time, and one of the co-founders of Emerge, who is Leah Barton, I was working on an assignment with her. And so I had gotten to know her. She walked over one day and said, "Hey, I've got a question for you." And I was like, "Sure." She's like, "I think you know a little bit about finance and a little bit about math. So given your understanding of those two things, how'd you like to come to an Emerge board meeting and potentially be our treasurer?" Right? She's like, "Why don't you come, attend the session, see what Emerge is all about, and if you want to get involved, we'd love to have you." And I said, "Fine," and so at the next board meeting, I got invited. It was in the Greenway Plaza area, went into a conference room, and I met the various board members. And, everyone came from a diverse background, a diverse group of individuals. But when they started talking about Emerge, its purpose, and the impact that it was having on the community, I was hooked. I was like, math or no math, I'm in. And so she was really the catalyst for why I joined. And it's just been a privilege to be a part of the organization. I do think, as part of that question, it is worth telling you a little bit about Emerge's journey as well, because at the time that I joined, which was about 6 years ago, just keep in mind for the audience that Emerge has been around for the last 10 years. So when it first started, it was serving just under 20 students in one district, right? Which is a very noble cause and purpose. But today, the organization is serving over 2,400 students across multiple districts. And I'd like to say that first board meeting is what got me hooked. And the growth and the people like yourself, Neil, are the reasons why I continue to stay involved and hopefully will stay involved for a very long time.
Thank you for the kind words, Abdullah. Now, I want to just remind our audience that there will be a Q&A session at the end of this discussion. So if you guys have any questions that you'd like to ask Abdullah, please feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the Zoom call. All right, now Abdullah, let's dive into your volunteer experience. Can you tell us your roles and responsibilities as both an Emerge board member and an Emerge mentor?
Yeah. Okay. So let me start with the board member first, because that's the more formal structure. So as the board member as a board member for the last 6 years, I've served as the treasurer and also as a part of the finance committee. And so really for the audience, what that means is I help to ensure that there's transparency around our financials and try to ensure that our financial representation is in good order. Um, as a part of that, I will tell you the last 3 years, we've been audited by an independent auditor, and an independent firm has also confirmed that our books and records are in good order, because for the last 3 years, they've given us an A rating. I think that's just a testament to the folks that are on the Emerge staff and their commitment to just not only serve the students, but for the sponsors and the donors that contribute to the organization, making sure that their funds are spent in a meaningful manner. So that's really from a board standpoint. From a mentorship standpoint, or as a mentor, really the focus for me has been on trying to engage with the students that Neil, you, and Janika partner me up with. And I don't know what the magic formula or crystal ball you have, but every year you seem to match at least me up with someone that is just the right match. For example, this year I was matched with a senior who is going to Northeastern in the fall. I'm hoping that he's on the call today. And, with him, it's been really a two-way street. And with all my mentees, it's been a two-way street. And what I mean by that, it's not only being able to listen to what's important to them, but it's also being able to share my personal experiences, right? Like I said, when we first started, I see a lot of me in these Emerge students. And so their story is really a reflection of my own. I may be 30 years ahead of them, but, if I can share lessons and mistakes that I made that may help them be better, that's what it's all about. Now, it doesn't all have to pertain to their scholastics and what do they want to do when they get out of school and college. The relationship that I have, at least with my mentees, is also about making sure that they're okay, right? We had a winter storm here recently. A lot of us lost power. A lot of us lost access to a normal way of life. I can tell you, I reached out to all my mentees and they reached out to me, right? Just to make sure that we were okay. My current mentee actually sent me resources that I could use because we were out of power. And so I think, as part of this relationship, it extends just beyond, hey, what school are you going to and what's the right class that you should or should not be taking. It goes much further than that. You're trying to build a bond. And, I see the most important part of being a mentor is instilling hope and having these individuals be able to share having these individuals share their thoughts, their aspirations with you, and you being able to instill a little hope in them, knowing that they're going to probably achieve what they're saying and that they just need a little bit of a nudge to get there, makes it very rewarding.
That's great. Now, you mentioned that you've been involved with Emerge for about the past 6 years. Do you have a favorite memory or story at Emerge that you can share with our audience members?
I gotta say, I've got a lot of favorite memories. Many stand out, but if you were to ask me about the most memorable one, what I would say is it's got to be senior celebration. And just to level set for the audience, senior celebration in a pre-COVID world was when Emerge would put on an annual event where the graduating seniors would actually come on, would come to this event. They would come on to the stage, and their name would be called out. The college they would the college they planned on attending in the fall would also be called out, and it gave the audience and just everyone attending an opportunity to appreciate the students. And so, I when I went to my first event, I got comfortable in my seat, and names started being called out, and you hear so and so is going to Harvard, Yale, MIT, USC, Brandeis, um, Wesleyan. I mean, any 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 top college you can think of, it was called out, right? And not that that wasn't inspiring enough. After they were done, the Emerge staff is known for always going above and beyond. So after the names were called out, a open mic was passed to just the different family members that were attending. And as the mic was being passed around, um, the majority of the time, English was not the language that was being spoken, right? So you're in like this melting pot where there's just different languages from Spanish to Chinese to different African dialects to Hindi, Urdu. I mean, it's just different words were being spoken, and I couldn't tell you I understood all the words that people were saying, but I definitely understood the emotion, and being there and just listening to, family members show their appreciation to these graduating students was just phenomenal. They say in life there are tipping points, right, where you can see change happening. It's probably the first time and probably the most memorable time I've seen a tipping point take place, because I felt like I was a part of it, right? I was witnessing change happen, because after these students go to these top colleges, the lives of their families will not ever be the same. And to me, that was just a phenomenal experience. And this isn't a plug for senior celebration. It is for anyone that wants to attend when we have them. It's a phenomenal event, and I would encourage everyone to go. But I got to say that's got to be at the top of the list.
Um, so what advice do you have to those who may be interested in volunteering at Emerge?
You know, um, when it comes to volunteering at Emerge, I've had this conversation with a couple of people, right? More in like a professional setting. As professionals, you want to get everything right, right? You want to make the right impact. You want to have the right set of words. You want to do everything the right way, because a lot of people, rightfully so, feel that when they become a mentor or they become a part of the organization, they feel a sense of, it's like not only a sense of ownership, but they feel a sense of liability, that they want to get it right for these students, right? Knowing that these are the brightest of the brightest in Houston, just making sure that, they're well situated for that forward step, right? Or as they go to college, or even when they get out of college. And so, a lot of times when people are thinking about volunteering, they tend to overthink that process, quite honestly. It took me a year before I became a mentor, just because I was like, am I going to have that profound impact, right? Am I going to be able to do the things the student needs me to do? And so, I think if you try to overthink it, you're going to get it wrong. I think you just have to do it. Simply said, it's you have to put yourself in the situation, and you will find that more so than being a mentor and having the right words to say or having grandiose ideas, It's just being there for a student, helping them understand that, there's someone that has experienced a little bit or a lot more life than they have. Um, and being able to share your stories, being able to share that perspective, because what it comes down to is trust, right? And if you can build that trust and you can provide that reassurance, I firmly believe there is nothing that these students can't do, right? And the potential that they have, the aspirations that they have are totally limitless, right? And it's just about giving that reassurance and being a positive impact in those people's lives. Now, um, you know, when you're trying to get involved, I think a lot of times people also worry about the time commitment. Am I going to have enough time? Am I going to be available when the student is available? And I will tell you, all that gets sorted out, right? This is like any other relationship that you have in life. You just kind of figure it out over time, right? And as you build that trust, you start to create that two-way street. And once that two-way street is there, you can use it to the student's benefit. And quite honestly, I've used it to my benefit, right? Meaning, like, I've learned a lot about myself just sharing my stories, sharing kind of my perspectives. So much so I've come home and I've talked to my kids about it, right? And so I feel it's a way to connect more broadly. I will also say having my own kids helps, because I can also relate to these students a little bit more, even though there's a bit of an age gap. But I know what TikTok is. I know what it means to be on the gram. I'm not on the gram, but I know what it means to be. I'm more of the Facebook generation, but hey, just having that perspective and being able to relate to them, I think is all that matters. And so anyone that's listening and is interested in volunteering or being a mentor, I would encourage them just to do it, because if you try to think about it, if you're sitting there thinking about it, you've thought about it way too long. You need to throw yourself in and enjoy the process once it starts.
Amazing. Okay, Abdullah, I think we have one more question before we go into our Q&A session.
Sure.
To follow up about how you found out about Emerge, what drew you into Emerge? What was that thing that made you just love the mission and what we do?
Well, you know, Emerge is catering to a student body that, many years ago, I would have been a part of, right? Having gone to A-Leaf, we didn't have internet at the time, but, we had these large books that you would have to like open up and go through the colleges and figure out which one you were a good match for, right? But this type of tool or this type of organization, this type of purpose didn't exist when I was in high school, right? And so I can't do an apples to apples comparison, because technology has progressed us so far versus where we were when I was in high school. But if I think about the mindset of what these students need and the mindset of, what the potential is that these students have, that's what drew me in. It's the fact that I could be a part of an organization that I potentially could have benefited from, right? Is really what drives me. And I'll be honest with you, every year I meet new students and they just get smarter and smarter, right? Not that, my mentees are probably like, hey, 5 years ago, you told me I was smart. No, you're smart too. But it's just the appreciation and the context of kind of what they want to do and where they want to get to is constantly progressing, right? And so just watching these students' lives change, and also having these mentees and watching them progress in their own lives has been really amazing. And some of the mentees that I've had have actually graduated from college now. And so one of them went to work at one of my former employers. And, it all started with him attending, shadowing for a day where we asked him to take notes, right? And so that simple activity of breaking pen and paper, you know, inspired him to take on a career at Ernst and Young, right? And so you never know what little thing you can do that will inspire hope or inspire a dream within one of these students. And so for me, that has probably been the thing that keeps me engaged. And given that I have a captive audience right now, I think the other thing that inspires me most about Emerge is just the people. Not only, it goes without saying that the Emerge staff is talented and they're committed, but I've seen them move mountains, right? I've seen, Neil, your secret sauce in terms of how you pair people together, right? Janika in terms of how she does development, and Trisha who kind of provides the direction and the vision for where the organization is going, and ensuring that every member of the staff stays true to the purpose is something that I've seen firsthand, right? It's one thing when you contribute to an organization or you see it from the outside. It's another when you get the opportunity to see it from the inside as well. And I can't think of a better organization to be a part of. I've been a part of it, like I said, for 6 years. Hopefully they'll let me stick around a little bit longer. And I just view it as an honor and a privilege.
Awesome. And Abdullah, we're so thankful for you for all that you do for our organization. So I just want to, plug you in for all that you do for Emerge. So thank you for your continued investment in our students. All right. With that being said, we can go ahead and go into the Q&A session. We have a couple of questions that have come in already. Audience members, if you guys are interested in submitting questions, please feel free to submit them on the Q&A feature at the bottom of this Zoom call. All right, so the first question comes from Eugene. What would you say are usually some of the biggest needs of the students that you've mentored?
Well, that's a great question, Eugene. The needs I would say, have varied. Some people, it was about sharing my own experiences with them in terms of, how did I figure out what college to go to, for example, some of them also being first generation, having commitments with their family members, getting comfortable with the idea that they may be leaving for college, maybe going to a different state, and what does that entail? For some of them, it's been around, hey, what college should I go to, right? Like what college is best? And, for me, it's been about helping them understand it's where they're most comfortable. It doesn't matter what I think or what others think. It's where they see themselves being the most successful and which college aligns best to their interests. And more importantly, I think the most, a common theme across all my mentees has been just being able to listen, right? Being able to listen and being able to show that you care. I've had some of them come over for Thanksgiving, and I swear to you, my mom was trying to plug in like which one of my uncles this kid could be related to or the student could be related to. So it comes down to a two-way street, right? It's about it's about being present, and it's about listening and trying to fulfill the needs of the student.
Awesome. So there's another question from Lauren who asks, I love hearing about your story and experience at senior celebration. Do you have another favorite memory that you can share?
Like I said, I have a lot of favorite memories, and I think I've peppered them in. But to be more specific, there was a mentee that I had that shadowed us for a day. It was at the same client that that I was working with Leah on. And so he came, bright-eyed, ready to go. He joined us. He was a senior in high school, and I sat down with him, and I gave him an opportunity to meet a lot of our team members. And so it wasn't known to me. He actually took their phone numbers and email addresses as well. And he actually created friendships with like 4 or 5 of them. And, having been through that experience, and he hadn't even entered college yet, he was like, I want to work for EY when I graduate. And I was, and none of us encouraged him to do that. None of us like told him, hey, like this is what you need to think about. With that, I will say I did encourage him to get a minor in accounting, just because I think that's helped him in just his career aspirations. But having him shadow us, having him set up a desire to work for EY, seeing him go through 4 years of school, land an internship at EY, and then get a full-time offer, and to see him walking around the EY office when I was there was just phenomenal, right? To me, that was not only, hey, I've got an aspiration and a plan, but that was the realization of that plan as well. And so to me, that was pretty meaningful.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question, and there's a question that we received that I can't read the name from, but the question is: as a board member, supporter, and volunteer, how do you go about introducing others to Emerge, whether it be to mentor or volunteer or to support financially?
I would say I have buckets for that. Like for my close friends, I ask them to cut a check, right? And I'm pretty blunt in terms of, hey, you need to be a part of this, and you need to do this because it lines up with everything that you also believe in and the difference that you want to make. So you need to either get involved or you need to pull out your checkbook, right? So that's with the people that I'm very close with. For those that I'm not as close with and those that I'm trying to introduce to Emerge, those conversations are more around the value and the value proposition that Emerge brings. I try to share things on social media as well, not Instagram, social media being LinkedIn, which hopefully everyone on this call is on, but sharing acknowledgement on LinkedIn, talking to just different professionals I know that are interested in diversity, interested in making a difference, or interested in education, giving the story of Emerge to them and giving them an opportunity to learn more, to get involved, to invest, are different techniques that I've used.
Awesome. That's great. Well, that wraps it up for today's episode of Emerge on the Real with Emerge board member. We have a question from Janika, who I will allow to talk.
Oh, wow. I get to talk. Abdullah, just really quick, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the luncheon and like maybe how you're planning to, pull in any folks through that route.
Absolutely. So April 21st, Emerge is going to have its annual luncheon. It's the Build a Village luncheon. And if you have not registered already, you should absolutely register and attend. Typically when we've had these sessions in person, I can tell you there's not a dry eye in the house, just because the stories are so powerful and the students are just so phenomenal that, if you haven't already, you should visit the Emerge website and sign up to attend the luncheon. To answer your question, Janika, I have forwarded emails, I've made phone calls, and I've reached out to folks and just asked them to attend, telling them it's just an hour, it's virtual this year, so they have no excuse. And I also told them that I'll be able to see who all attends, and if they're not there, I'm going to call them afterwards.
All right, well, that wraps it up for today's episode of Emerge on the Real with Emerge board member and mentor, Abdullah Khan. Thank you to those who joined us for today's discussion. And Abdullah, thank you for your continued commitment and investment in our students and for spending time with us today.
Hey, thank you, Neil, and thank you, Janika. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Have a good one. Take care.
Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.